Is Israel a pariah state? Yes. Is Israel a rogue state? Absolutely. But the question for me is, when are governments going to recognize that? And when are they going to do something about it?
I think that it's unavoidable for Israel to become a pariah.
As Europe's half-baked rebukes and Washington's weak PR stunts allow Israel to continue carrying out its genocidal expansionism, a larger question emerges. Has Israel's lawless carnage and brazen defiance of international law turned it into a global pariah? From South Africa's 2024 ICJ case accusing Israel of genocide to widespread protests spanning the globe, a reckoning is unfolding, one that goes beyond the West. But what makes a country a pariah state? And does Israel fit the bill? Pariah states are global outcasts, and scholars point to 6 key traits: defying treaties by using weapons of mass destruction, supporting terrorism, lacking democratic governance, violating human rights, promoting radical ideologies, or committing acts of military aggression abroad. So, how does Israel measure up? First, the use of weapons of mass destruction. Israel has used white phosphorus, generally deemed to violate international humanitarian law when used in densely populated areas such as Gaza. It has also used thousands of US-supplied Mk-84 bombs, which are unguided 2,000-pound explosives that wreak indiscriminate destruction to effectively flatten Gaza, razing its neighborhoods and infrastructure and slaughtering thousands, including children, sheltering in tents.
Gaza's been decimated. We've seen that now Israel has practically flattened the largest Palestinian city, which is Gaza City. Israel has bombed each and every hospital. This is against the rules of international law, and it's against the rules of logic.
Second, supporting terrorism. In 1982, Israel's allied Falangist militia slaughtered up to 3,500 Palestinian civilians in Lebanon in what became known as the Sabra and Shatila massacre. The occupied West Bank also witnessed daily violent acts of terror, with more than 900 Palestinians killed since October 2023 by Israeli forces and illegal Israeli settlers, often armed and shielded by the state.
There's no way that this ends that doesn't leave Israel a pariah state with occupation and apartheid on borrowed time.
Third, the question of democracy. While Israel touts itself as the only democracy in the Middle East, its actions and laws suggest otherwise. Since its violent ethnic cleansing of Palestine in 1948 and its occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem beginning in 1967, the Israeli state has imposed a crippling blockade on Gaza, ongoing since 2007, as it continues to subject Palestinians to brutal military rule, discriminatory laws, extrajudicial surveillance, and mass incarceration. And within Israel, the government raised the electoral threshold from 2% to 3.25% in 2014 in an attempt to block the already underrepresented Palestinian parties from entering the parliament, the Knesset. Then in 2018, Israel passed the nation-state law, cementing Jewish supremacy as a constitutional principle by defining Israel exclusively as the nation-state of the Jewish people, with no mention of democracy, equality of minority rights, and downgrading Arabic, removing it as an official state language.
The whole world knows that Israeli settlements are illegal, they're against international law, they're even considered to be a war crime. You don't need to be an international legal scholar to know that.
Fourth, human rights violations. From deliberate starvation and the bombing of schools, hospitals and refugee camps to the killing of civilians, aid workers and journalists, as well as repeated violations of every ceasefire since October 7, rights groups say Israel's actions constitute flagrant human rights abuses.
Israeli occupation is already a pariah state. The whole world, outside of a handful of European nations and the United States, and by the way, the people in those nations actually see Israel as a pariah state. Their governments choose not to, and their governments continue to support ethnic cleansing and genocide and a Holocaust at this point.
Fifth, promoting radical ideologies. Despite being illegal under international law, Israel continues to expand and promote its settlement in the occupied West Bank and East Jerusalem, with state ministers proudly championing the annexation of Palestinian land. The expansionist vision to seize land they believe was part of Greater Israel and given to them by God has enabled more than 700,000 settlers to illegally move into occupied Palestinian land since 1967.
Just the other day, an Israeli member of the cabinet was on an Israeli television station, and he turned to the camera and he said, "We killed 150 Palestinians just yesterday, and nobody is stopping us." For him, it means, let's continue. If nobody is stopping us, let's continue. So when you look around and you see that for 58 years, that all that Israel has been able to do is get away with murder, literally murder, it cements in their mind this idea that they can do whatever they want to do. And that's what Israel's been doing, is they've been saying to the world, try to stop us. Just you try.
Finally, military aggression abroad. Israel carried out military aggressions against at least 4 other countries in 2024, from its pager attacks in Lebanon, which killed 12 and injured at least 3,000 civilians, to its airstrikes on Syria, Yemen, and Iran.
There's no question that the large numbers of people are viewing Israel as a pariah state, probably the most severely perceived as such, at least since South Africa's racist apartheid state, and possibly since Hitler's Germany.
Israel continues to frame its actions in Gaza as self-defense against Hamas, but the reality on the ground tells a different tale. One that severely undermines any claims Israel has been making of moral legitimacy.
It is fair to say that Israel has endured this defeat in what I call the legitimacy war. And often these struggles are determined in the final stages not by which side has the superior military capabilities, but by the side that wins the legitimacy war. And in that sense, the Palestinians are winning the legitimacy war.
Yet, Israel has so far evaded the pariah status quickly assigned to others by the West. Russia's invasion of Ukraine prompted immediate Western sanctions, sports and culture bans, and widespread displays of Ukrainian flags across Europe and the US in an attempt to isolate the aggressor, Russia. In contrast, the West has failed to impose similar measures on Israel, even as it commits one atrocity after the other. While Western nations haven't officially designated Israel as a pariah state, it's unsurprising that it continues to back Tel Aviv, as pariah states often receive support, including advanced weaponry, from those who assign them the pariah status.
And that makes it extremely difficult to translate this pariah status into a political outcome that will achieve fundamental Palestinian rights, above all, the right of self-determination.
I think they're only going to do something about it when Palestine becomes an issue on the ballot box. When it's not an issue on the ballot box, when our global humanity is not an issue on the ballot box, then we're going to continue to see Europe behaving the way it is.
The world at the same time is waking up to these realities, and they are determined to stop it, because that's the moral thing to do, that's the ethical thing to do, that's the human thing to do.
In a fairer world, Israel's genocidal war would have ended long ago, but even after killing more than 55,000 Palestinians and reducing Gaza to ruins, Tel Aviv's staunchest backers have refused to impose any serious measures to hold the country accountable. Millions of people around the world are now stepping up and taking bold actions to try to stop Israel in its tracks, in the absence of any concrete action by their own leaders. So will Western governments continue to support Israel, or will they cave to pressure and finally take action to stop Tel Aviv before it's too late?